what I discovered is that my hope was actually falling apart because I like to run ahead of God and anchor my hope in outcomes of my own imagination rather than trusting God on a day-to-day basis and letting the outcomes come and reminding myself this is part of God's good answer, even if it doesn't feel good to me right now.
Welcome back. This is a special day because I have my friend Lysa TerKeurst on the show. She is talking about her new book, I Want to Trust You, But I Don't. Who hasn't been in that situation? Who hasn't wanted to trust when we just don't feel like we can? Here's the subtitle: Moving Forward When You're Skeptical of Others, Afraid of What God Will Allow, and Doubtful of Your Own Discernment. This message is so good. It's so helpful. Every time Lysa comes out with a new book, I'm always so excited to have her on the show and for us to talk about this with you, because the depth of her understanding, what she has gone through, the way she gives handles to women to pick up a message and to carry it with them is so powerful. You're going to get so much from this. And of course, Lysa is always a joy. I'm so, so happy that you're here. Now, without further ado, here's my friend Lysa.
Lysa, here's my first question to you. How did writing I Want to Trust You, But I Don't change you? Because I know writing this book had to change you.
Well, I think it did a couple of things for me, Allie. Number one, it made me face my trust issues with a little more intentionality. Sometimes I think we hear the word trust issues and it kind of sounds like a dirty word or like a bad diagnosis, you know? But the reality is I did some research online and the average American lies 4 times a day. Typically, the average male American lies 6 times a day, and the average female American lies an average of 2 times a day. So when you combine them, a lot of studies show it's like 4 times a day. So my point in giving you those statistics is that trust issues are everywhere. Skepticism, cynicism, they're at an all-time high. And so for me, I knew that I was struggling with some of these things, but I think when I sat down to write about it, it made me face them in a way that maybe I hadn't before and with more urgency. And also as I dug into the topic, you know how it is when you're writing a book. I didn't start writing the book with all the answers. I started writing the book with the issues, you know?
Yeah.
But I think that's a good place to start a book because I think more than wanting to be taught something, readers want to be understood. And so my goal with the book was, is it really possible to escape life without having your trust broken? The answer to that, we all know, is a big fat no. We're all going to have our trust broken. So I can't fix that issue for my readers. But what can we do? Not just what can I do for my readers, but how can I live so that broken trust doesn't rattle the very core of my existence? And the answer became I needed more emotional fortitude and inner stability, not just with other people, but also with God, in order to better weather the situations that, whether it's a true betrayal or whether it's an interpretation by me that it's a betrayal, I've got to be able to weather these things better. So that's what really got me working on this topic, is working on myself.
I love that. I love how you also talked about how you realized there was a phase in your life that you were quietly quitting on hope. Talk about that and what that to you.
Well, hope can be the most brutal risk of all. You know, hope can be the most thrilling expectation of a future that you desperately want, or hope can seem like a fool's game that is going to lead to nothing but heartbreak and way too much risk. And so I would never have said like, hey, I'm quietly quitting on hope. I wouldn't have said that. But I heard that term quietly quitting in terms of people that were doing a job, but their heart wasn't in it any longer. So they would go through the motions, get the basics of their job done, but they weren't investing the best of themselves in their work. And that's called quiet quitting at work. But I thought to myself, I'm not doing that at work. I'm quietly quitting on hope because I am so tired of hoping for the best, but experiencing the worst. And so I had to do a lot of work to figure out, yes, hope is risky, but when we anchor our hope to something that is completely stable, it changes the whole dynamic of life for us. And it sounds kind of Christian cliche, like anchor your hope in the Lord. That's really hard when you feel like the Lord is someone who has betrayed you as well. Not that the Lord actually did something to betray me, but my interpretation of what the Lord allowed and then what he continued to allow to happen, it felt like a betrayal, even though in a spiritual sense, it wasn't a betrayal at all. But just enough time hadn't passed for me to see the full scope of what God was actually doing. And so I think I was hesitant to even hope that the Lord could actually do something to make issues that I was facing and circumstances I was walking through, that the Lord could actually do something to make them good again. We stand up in church and we say, he is a good, good father, but then we quietly question, but why isn't he being good to me in this? So it was really important for me to dig around and figure out, where is my hope actually falling apart? And what I discovered is that my hope was actually falling apart because I like to run ahead of God and anchor my hope in outcomes of my own imagination rather than trusting God on a day-to-day basis and letting the outcomes come and reminding myself this is part of God's good answer, even if it doesn't feel good to me right now.
So good, which really leads me into talking about chapter 10, the secret to healing. If someone is listening going, this is me, I know I was betrayed by someone else. I felt that betrayal by God, and I'm just a raw nerve. What are some practical steps so a woman can begin healing from betrayal?
Well, I think first of all, we have to acknowledge exactly what we've been through. And it's going to be absolutely crucial that we acknowledge that with a safe person. Mm-hmm. For me, one of the most healing things that I ever did was sit in front of my counselor and tell him in the most raw form exactly what I had experienced. Every hurt that was part of this situation I was facing, everything that was said to me that became not just a line spoken to me, but a lie that I started to believe about myself that then became a liability in how I functioned in other relationships. And so it was so crucial that I sat in front of him and he said these words to me, I believe you. And I realized in that moment, nothing had changed to fix my circumstances, but I was taking some of the most important steps of healing. And the first one was that there was another human in this world that acknowledged the pain and told me they believed me and that what I'd walked through was wrong. It shouldn't have happened. And of course, I was hurting the way that I was hurting. So it sounds like a strange place to start, but I needed another human to bear witness to the pain that I had been carrying inside.
No, it makes perfect sense because once we go through a betrayal, we will heap so much shame on ourselves that we end up withdrawing and not connecting with people. And so it becomes just a self-fulfilling prophecy for women, right?
That's right. And I had to learn with trust. Trust is the oxygen of all human relationships. So as I started healing and moving forward, I quickly realized there's a huge bummer about trust. Do you want me to reveal it right here, right now?
Yeah, please.
Bummer thing is broken trust makes us want to withdraw, but the only way to repair our trust is in the context of relationships. Mm-hmm. Now, it doesn't have to be a relationship with the person who caused us devastation. We have to repair trust in the context of some relationship. So sometimes when we want to withdraw the most is actually, if we want to take that step of healing, we have to press in and realize that we need trust in order for relationships to even exist. Then once we understand that trust is the oxygen of all human relationships, you starve a relationship of trust and the best it can ever be is on life support, right? So then as we repair trust, What's required is a balanced understanding of safety and connection. Now, I'm going to do confession time. Is that okay, Allie?
Please. I love confession time.
Okay, confession here. I guess because of the tremendous heartbreak I'd experienced with the divorce that I walked through, which it's so strange, Allie. It's been years now, and I still find it's like a catch in my throat when I say divorce. It's just still such a hard thing for me to say. And those of us that have walked through divorce, I hear that same hesitation a lot. So let's just call it the death of my marriage, because the grief was deep and the loss was enormous in my life. So I think because of the trauma that I had walked through, I started prioritizing safety so high that I didn't want to take any risk with relationships. And so I refused to make connections very deep. So my connections were very shallow. My need for safety was so high that it was hard for me to repair trust because I just wasn't willing to take the risk of connection. And without connection, there can be no relationship. Now, other people I've watched, suddenly when their trust is shattered, they start to want connection with another person so desperately that they ignore the red flags and they diminish their own need for safety. And so they're desperate for connection, but they minimize their need for safety and they try to repair trust. And then they just get their heart broken over and over and over because they weren't paying attention to certain factors that are required for trust to be birthed and for trust to be sustained. So our goal here, Allie, is to find connections that are safe connections. And so in the book, we do a tremendous amount of work walking through how can we find connections that are safe, recognizing there's always going to be risk in every relationship, but how can we minimize the risk and increase the peace within the connections and relationships that we have?
That's so good and so valuable. That one section of the book is absolutely genius, in my opinion. Now let's talk about when our trust has been broken, when we've been betrayed, when we are kind of a walking raw nerve. The line between discernment and triggers being so thin, what's your advice on how to differentiate? Is this discernment about a situation, or am I triggered because of my past experiences?
I wish so much, Allie, that I had a formula for this. Like, plug in all of these factors and I'll spit out like, this is discernment that you really should be concerned about. Or this is a trigger from unhealed past pain or from pain in the past that was so deep that of course, when you experience something that reminds you of past pain, it makes it present pain all over again. That's really what a trigger is. So how do we know? I sat in front of a counselor and I asked her this very question because I was starting to stick my toes in the dating arena. And I went through these cycles. Like first I was like, I'll never date. I'll never, ever take that risk again. Because remember my confession, I prioritized safety so high that I diminished even the possibilities for connection in future potential romantic relationships. I was like, not for me ever again. But when I got past that part of the cycle and I did start dating, I put so much pressure on myself every first date to pick up on every red flag that I couldn't even enjoy the connection or even see a possible connection, because when you go into a relationship with someone and you're expecting to find wrong things, you're looking for wrong things, you're focused on wrong things, then pretty much that's all you're going to see, right? Because you're going to find what you're looking for. And so that became an issue. So I sat in front of a counselor and I was like, I have to do something about this. And she gave me some really good advice. She said, you're going to need to investigate. What? Like, is it okay for a Christian woman to investigate? Like, is that good? Is that healthy? Is that wrong? Now, that doesn't mean that I suddenly become like CSI, where I'm like going in stealth and, trying to hack into people's emails or become obsessed with all. It's not that at all. But what it is two things. Number one, I need to investigate by asking questions. And if the person that I'm in a relationship with, if they have an issue with some of the questions, now I don't mean me getting obsessive and asking for tons of details, but legitimate questions to ensure my safety, healthy people respect those. And if they're not hiding anything, they're eager to give you reassurances. So investigate, ask the questions, look into things that feel triggering to you. If it's a right person or right relationship with the right perspectives, them knowing what you've walked through, it's kind of like, whoa, of course you want to know that information. So I'm happy to give it to you because I'm not hiding anything. If they get defensive and like really, really accusatory of why you're asking this or any of that, that's definitely a huge red flag that we should pay attention to, because what are you hiding? If you weren't hiding anything, you probably wouldn't get so frustrated by my questions, right? So investigation is on that side, of just asking questions when we need answers. And again, not obsessing about it, but getting information. And, I think that's good. The second part of investigation for me was investigating myself. So instead of going on dates, thinking only about the other person and trying to pick up on every red flag, I went into the date and I thought, what can I learn about myself? What can I learn about myself? Because every single date, I started to learn things about myself. I would go home, I would sit with it, and I would really ponder, like, what does this say about me? Is there some more healing? Is this a topic I need to talk to my counselor about? Is this just a personal preference? Or is this something that is an alarm with this other person, And it became very important for me to investigate on both sides. And it became really crucial for me to learn how to be honest. Obviously, this is for way more scenarios than somebody dating. It could also be if you're looking for friendships, if you're looking for a small group to join and you want to see if you're a good match with these people because you may be sharing vulnerable information. What Jim told me, my counselor, he said to me that my picker was broken. You have to be careful how you say that, okay?
That's true.
But what that means is we will attract people on our same level of health. So if we want better people in our life, then we have to make sure that we've done our work on our side of the street and become more healed so that we will attract people who are also more healed.
So good. That is really the key, because there is something inside of us. If there is an area of brokenness, somehow we will attract someone who is broken in just that way that we are. And the results are really tough. This has been so helpful, Lysa. You look like you were going to say something really smart. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, yes, we'll either attract people with a similar brokenness to us, or we will attract people that we think we can fix, because boy, does it feel good to be a fixer. The problem with that is the minute we step in to become a fixer or a rescuer, and if we're dealing with someone who has a victim mentality, that's the minute that we set ourselves up to eventually be the perpetrator, because we were never meant to be someone's savior. We can be their mother, we can be their friend, we can be their wife, we can be their girlfriend, we can be their neighbor, we can be their small group leader, but we cannot be their savior. And if you step in with a victim, someone who's kind of stuck in that victim mentality, and you try to be the rescuer, you'll eventually become the perpetrator. And that's some of the hardest broken trust of all.
That's so true. Okay, last serious question. Then I have a fun question. The serious question is, what about this topic is really important to share that we haven't touched on yet?
Sometimes distrust is the wisest, most Christian choice to make. I think sometimes as Christians, we think, well, if I've forgiven someone, a true sign of my forgiveness is that I automatically trust them again. Those two concepts should be completely separate. God does tell us that we are to forgive all people. God does not tell us to trust all people. Actually, he tells us the exact opposite. Look, Allie, there's a big difference in relationships between mistakes, which we all make, and that's the purpose of grace and forgiveness. When there's a repentant person who's made a mistake, learning to trust them again, that's a good process to walk through. If you're dealing with someone who's not making mistakes, but rather making repetitive patterns of destructive behavior, harmful behavior, betrayal behavior, those things are impacting us more than what we can even imagine. And in those situations, we can forgive them, but we should not automatically trust them. Trust has to be earned. Trust is earned time plus believable behavior.
Okay. I am so glad I asked that question. I normally don't. And now I know why I asked that question. That was amazing. Okay. Last question, the fun question. I want from you a super affordable everyday beauty item and a luxury treat beauty item. What are you loving right now?
Oh my goodness. Okay. I love this question so much. My luxury beauty item is my perfume. Now, let me explain this. It's called Baccarat, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's the square bottle with the little red label. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do. Yep.
It smells so wonderful. I got the original bottle as a gift. And then when I went to purchase it, I was shocked at how expensive it is. Now, there are several dupes out there. So look for the dupes if you want to. I know Ariana Grande Cloud, some people say is a dupe. It didn't work for me, but it does work for other people. There are also dupes by, I think it's that cosmetic company like Dime or something like that. So anyways, you can look up dupes if you want to. That is definitely a luxury item. It is my signature smell now. And people say that when, like, my office is 16,000 square feet, and people can be upstairs and swear that when I walk through the office, they know I'm there because they smell the smell. It's not because I use too much perfume. It's
That's
just
amazing.
Such a yummy smell. Okay, so that's my luxury.
Okay.
My cheap item that I absolutely love are these face towels that you can throw away. They're disposable face towels. My daughter told me about them. You can get them on Amazon or wherever you like to find things, but they're specifically made for the face and they're disposable face towels. Where have you been all my life? And why am I 54 years old and just finding out about this? It has made my skin so smooth because I'm not reusing towels that have bacteria on them. And I'm not like getting makeup all over my towels and then ruining my pretty white towels, right? And so I am really thrilled at this discovery.
Okay, I'm so glad I asked you. This is amazing. Okay, I'll have you back and we'll talk about beauty products the whole time one day. This will be our plan. But seriously, thank you for coming on. It's such an important topic. Tell everyone real quick why they need I want to trust you, but I don't.
Because we all have trust issues. And if you want to learn to move forward when you feel skeptical of others, unsure of what God will allow, and maybe you're doubtful of your own discernment, finally, there is a message tailor-made for the parts of your heart that want to learn, how can I get through life and experience broken trust but not be devastated by it? Broken trust, it can absolutely be life-altering, but it should never be life-ruining.
So good. Lysa TerKeurst, you are always a gem. Thank you for this new book. I know it's going to help so many people.
Thank you, Allie.
How amazing is Lysa TerKeurst, right? I'm going to give away so many copies of her book. You know what to do. Tag Lysa, tag me on Instagram. Tell us how much you enjoyed the show. You'll be entered to win a book. If you're watching on YouTube, just make sure you're subscribed and you like and you leave a comment. And then I'll be like Oprah giving away cars. I'll be like, you get a book and you get a book and you get a book. I love to bless people with books. It is so fun to me. I want to bring actionable advice, great stories, things for you to take away with you every week. But I love sharing these books because For an author, every time we write a book, it's 2 years of our lives really poured into something that's pretty easy and affordable for everyone to pick up and take with them. But I love giving them away, and I love spending time with you. Thank you that you're here. Thank you for investing in you. Because like I say all the time, an investment in you, in your spiritual health, and your emotional health, and your professional success, it's not just a benefit for you. It's a benefit to everyone in your life. And I believe in what's in you. I know what kind of person you are just because you are here. You are spending time investing in you. That's why you're here. You're learning something that's going to help you get a little healthier, that's going to help you live the life that God has for you and improve life little by little, day by day. Because God has created you to stand strong and do something special and unique in this world that only you can do. And I love that I get to coach and equip you every step of the way. So my reminder is that you keep stepping up, you keep showing up, you keep loving well, because you know the truth. You cannot break a woman who gets her strength from God. I hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you again soon. It's probably fresh for you. I'm back for me. I've done so many videos today. Now, before we talk to Lysa, what do I want to do?
Can you not save it?
I love doing the intros when it's just an interview. How easy is that? This is all people do on their podcast? That's easy. And with that, I'm out. Cut.